Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Sorry I didn't post a video last week. We're into conference season, and between presenting and attending I haven't been on farm as much in the last few weeks. In addition, bird flu has meant that our turkeys have had to be confined to their shed, and that's created a lot of extra work. As outlined previously, we took sap samples for the first time this year in an effort to learn more about this nutrient analysis technique. We also participated in yen nutrition, and this week I'd like to look at the takeaway lessons from comparing our actions and the resulting changes in grain nutrition levels. I start with the Nova Crop SAP lesson, then look at yen nutrition results.
SAP data is presented on these highly helpful data sheets which compares young and old leaves against optimal values. Let's start with magnesium, which should be in the range of 250 to 430. Previously, the new leaves were lower than the old, at 67 versus 113 with the wheat crop, and 27 versus 230 in the healthy crop. This time the values, although still below the optimum, are much closer. 128 versus 143 in the poor crop, and 166 versus 161 in the healthy. We have applied a foliar treatment of magnesium, and the mag levels have risen in both old and new leaves, indicating this is a genuine deficiency and needs additional applications, so we will apply more.
Magnesium is the central core of the chlorophyll molecule in plant tissue. Thus, if magnesium is deficient, the shortage of chlorophyll results in poor and stunted plant growth. As there is a direct correlation between biomass and yield, we don't want magnesium to be a limiting factor. Although the two sap fields are tested, we also added some other fields we are interested in looking at. So although both sap fields received an application of Nutrasol 9% mag, Shed Farm, a winter wheat field, received none. This is represented in the low grain levels too, and although not in the yellow caution values, I think we will be including magnesium as a farm standard treatment going forward.
Interestingly, in a foliar winter wheat test from the 17th of May, it showed a deficiency despite a sulfur N application. These crops that we are testing for sap analysis have received only 0.7 kilos of sulfur within a magnesium product, Nutrasol. New leaf values have leapt outside specification. In the wheat crop from 610 to 1200, and in the strong crop from 680 to 1200, well outside the 360 to 590 optimum. I conclude plants are very sensitive to foliar sulfur application. Sulfur has fungicidal properties, so this might help with disease control.
In the case of grain sulfur, the fields received Nutrasol 9% magnesium, which is formulated to include 18% sulfur. And these two fields achieved higher sulfur grain results of 0.72 kilos of foliar sulfate per hectare compared to Shed Farm, which received 32 kilos per hectare in solid form. So I think we'll be applying sulfur in a foliar form in future. However, for manganese, there appears to be a very different relationship.
Both weak and strong fields showed low manganese in May. A foliar application has brought manganese back within specification, so the plant definitely shows a positive response.
However, for manganese, there appears to be a very different relationship, one relating to drilling date. The longer the crop is in the ground, the lower the manganese levels, despite the youngest crop receiving the least manganese treatments.
A very interesting takeaway is nitrogen. I shared our soil mineral nitrogen scores from earlier in the year, with the strong field recording 228 kilos of nitrogen per hectare. We have added a little nitrogen, 40 kilos of foliar N. However, in both the weak and strong fields, total N has been outside specification for new and old leaves throughout the growing season.
A similar result was seen in grain nitrogen levels, all testing in the higher range. Further to this, all our wheats achieved a protein in excess of 13%, which leads me to believe protein is diluted by yield. Industry practice is then to add higher levels of nitrogen to try and bolster protein levels. However, applied nitrogen to protein does not appear to be a linear response, making use of high levels of nitrogen an even harder decision in these times of higher prices. So, in conclusion, we will use a lot more magnesium and sulfur foliar nutrition early in the season, keeping multiple application of manganese to winter crops and cutting back to one application in spring crops. Finally, we will continue to cut nitrogen rates still further. I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Please give it a thumbs up, click on the subscribe button and find the bell to get notifications of when our next video goes live. Thank you very much. Bye.